By the end of this particular season, Parker's crew had mined an incredible 5,425.4 ounces of gold. At the time, with the price of gold being over $2,600 an ounce, that haul was worth over $14 million. Still a good week. Season total 5,425.4. Now, here's the crazy part. And this is where it gets even deeper for the fans who follow every detail. The $40 million season goal that is often talked about might not be for a single 12-month period. You see, these huge mining operations run over multiple years. Parker's $40 million goal was likely a target set over a 2 or even 3-year span of mining that particular piece of ground. The $14 million from this season was a massive chunk of that total, a giant leap towards his ultimate goal. So, while he didn't hit $40 million in this one season alone, his incredible $14 million haul absolutely smashed his targets for the year and put him in a perfect position to hit his overall goal. That final win was a moment of pure joy and exhaustion for the whole crew. They had faced down a terrible start, battled the frozen ground, and worked themselves to the bone. Seeing that final massive number on the scale was their reward. It was more than just money. It was a victory against the odds, a testament to their hard work and Parker's relentless drive. For him, it proved that even after making mistakes, you could fight your way back to the top. And as they packed up for the winter, they weren't thinking about the struggles. They were thinking about the massive pile of gold they had pulled from the ground, already planning how they would come back next year to get the rest. The gold rush rumor mill. What's really going on? Now, watching Parker Schnabel and his crew pull over $14 million worth of gold out of the ground is an incredible story of success. It's a tale of overcoming problems and winning big. But you see, with a mega-hit TV show like Gold Rush, there are always whispers and theories from the fans who wonder what's happening when the cameras aren't rolling. On the internet, dedicated fans analyze every scene, and their discussions bring up some huge questions and some wild ideas about the end show. One of the most talked about theories is something fans call the producer's gold. The thing is, the drama of hitting a season goal is a huge part of the show's excitement. The theory goes that if a crew is just a little bit short of their big dramatic goal by the final episode, the producers might find a way to help them get there. What nobody talks about is the pressure from the TV network to deliver a big, satisfying ending for the viewers. This theory suggests that maybe, just maybe, a small amount of gold could be added to a final win to make the number look better and create a more exciting finale. It's a huge scandal to even suggest, but some fans believe it could happen. They wonder if every single flake of gold we see on the scales came directly from that season's ground. Another theory that gets even deeper involves the land deals. Parker doesn't own all the ground he mines. He famously leases a lot of it from another Gold Rush legend, Tony Beats. On the show, we hear that Parker pays a royalty, a percentage of the gold he finds, to the landowner. But it turns out there's more to the story. Or at least, that's what the fans think. What really brings up a lot of questions are the details of these deals. The fan theory suggests that the royalty deals are much more complicated than what we are told on TV. You won't believe some of the ideas. Fans wonder if there are secret bonuses. For example, does Parker get a discount on his royalty if he mines over a certain number of ounces? Or on the other hand, are there secret penalties if he doesn't meet a certain target? There's been some bad blood at times, Tony, but I'm going to be calling in a favor one of these days. And just when you thought it couldn't get weirder, some fans think that the two rivals might be friendlier behind the scenes than they let on. The rivalry makes for great TV, but maybe their business deal is so good for both of them that they play up the drama for the cameras. But here's the crazy part. The most insane scandal that people whisper about has to do with the lost gold. The theory is that the gold we see weighed on the show isn't all the gold they find. What's really going on, according to this idea, is that the miners might have smaller, less dramatic cleanups that are never filmed. They might sell this off-camera gold quietly to private buyers. Why would they do this? The thing is, it would give them a steady cash flow to pay for things like fuel, parts, and food without it having to be part of a big TV storyline. It would also mean that the massive totals we see at the end of the season might not even be the complete picture. The truth nobody expected is that their real earnings could be even higher than the incredible numbers we see on the show. And if that wasn't enough, there are also theories about the crew. We see a core group of people on TV, but a huge mining operation like Parker's requires a lot more help. There are likely other mechanics, truck drivers, and workers who are never shown on camera. This brings up questions about how much the crew members we see are actually paid. Are they just paid a salary, or do they get a real percentage of the gold? The show keeps these details private, which lets the fans' imaginations run wild. Whether any of these theories are true or just fun rumors, they add a whole other layer of intrigue to the high-stakes world of gold mining. But let's not forget, it's not all just fan theories about things that might be happening now. The show has a long and wild history full of real on-camera blow-ups that were truly scandalous at the time. What nobody talks about anymore is the era of the Hoffman crew and their legendary failures. You see, years before Parker was the king of the Klondike, Todd Hoffman and his crew of rookies were the stars of the show. Their biggest scandal was a disastrous trip to Guyana in South America. They left Alaska with huge promises of finding mountains of gold in the jungle. We come back, we pack our stuff up, and we're out of here. Freddie, why don't you look at the map? Identify the places that we want to test. $60 a yard is our goal. Let's try to find it right here. But here's the crazy part. It was a complete and total failure. They found almost no gold. Their equipment was constantly breaking down in the thick mud, and the crew was miserable. For viewers, it was a shocking season that felt like watching a train wreck in slow motion. It became a huge scandal in the fan community, with everyone debating how a crew could be so unprepared and make so many bad decisions. That Guyana season is still remembered as one of the biggest disasters in the show's history. A real-life example of how gold fever can lead you down a very expensive and dead-end path. And if that wasn't enough, the Hoffman crew was also at the center of the show's very first mutiny. This is where it gets wild. Back in Season 1, a crew member named Jimmy Dorsey dramatically quit the team. He didn't just walk away quietly either. He went on camera and told the world that he thought Todd Hoffman's leadership was terrible and that the whole operation was a disorganized mess. You won't believe the drama it caused. It was the first time a crew member had broken ranks and publicly criticized their boss on the show. Suddenly, everything made sense to some viewers who already thought the crew was in over their heads. This was a true scandal that showed the real-life tensions and frustrations behind the scenes. It turns out there's more to the story of the show's past rivalries. 2. The famous tension between a young Parker Schnabel and the older, more experienced Todd Hoffman wasn't just for show. It boiled over into one of the most memorable moments in Gold Rush history, a real-life bet for 100 ounces of gold. That's right, a bet worth well over $100,000 at the time. This wasn't a producer's idea. It was a real challenge laid down between the two men to see who could mine the most gold. This changes everything because it took their on-screen rivalry and turned it into a massive public gamble with real money on the line. These past events, from jungle failures to public bets and crew mutinies, set the stage for the high-stakes world we see today. They are a reminder that the drama on Gold Rush has always been rooted in real risks, real failures, and very real scandals. So, was Parker chasing gold or just chasing fame? Let us know what you believe in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe for more shocking truths from the goldfields. I feel that way about every single thing on the mine site though. Most of the mining process is about just not letting yourself get screwed. In the frozen wilds of the Yukon, young mining boss Parker Schnabel set his sights on an insane $40 million gold season. You won't believe it, but chasing that kind of fortune is like daring disaster to come for you, with winter closing in and his crew pushed to the edge. Every broken machine felt like a ticking time bomb. The thing is, behind the scenes, it wasn't just mining, it was survival. This is the story where some say Parker risked lives, loyalty, and everything he built just to chase the spotlight. A frozen crisis and a costly mistake. The season started with big dreams. Parker, fresh off of previous successes, wanted to push the limits further than ever before. And that's the problem, is that we're using a lot of our manpower right now to just try to keep the plant fed. I really feel like we should shut the plant down. But here's the crazy part. His ambition might have been his biggest enemy. He had a huge amount of land to mine, but there was a major problem. You see, you can't just dig into the Yukon ground whenever you want. For most of the year, it's frozen solid, as hard as concrete. Miners have to spend months preparing the ground, scraping off the top layers of worthless dirt called overburden so the sun can thaw the rich, gold-filled pay dirt. Underneath, what nobody talks about is just how much planning this takes. You have to be thinking months, even a full year ahead. And this is where Parker's season hit its first major problem. It turns out there's more to the story of his early struggles. He admitted that he had made some poor decisions. He had a piece of ground called the elbow cut that he knew was full of good gold, but he hadn't prepared it in time. I mean, the elbow cut, there's a little corner where we first started last year. This pit is the most logical one to take out next. Now, with the short mining season already ticking away, he was left with huge areas of land that were still completely frozen and not ready to be washed for gold. That's when it hit them. They were in big trouble. The crew was already stretched thin, working multiple locations at once. They were trying to get gold out of one area called the bridge cut, while also trying to prepare a whole new cut for the next season. And if that wasn't enough, Parker now needed them to drop everything and focus on the frozen elbow cut. This changes everything for their plans. They had to remove 2 feet of overburden and then use giant dozers with huge metal rippers on the back to tear into the frozen pay dirt layer. Because of that, we're looking for something that's going to be a stopgap for us. Yeah, well, here she is. We can go through it and look at it and see what you think. And sweet. Yeah, let's check it out. It was slow, hard, and frustrating work. To make things even more stressful, Parker had to make a very expensive choice. To speed up the process of ripping the frozen ground, he brought in another massive D11 dozer. You won't believe how much one of these machines costs to run. It burns a huge amount of diesel fuel every single hour. The fuel bill alone was astronomical. It was a massive gamble, spending a fortune on a machine just to fix a mistake he had made months ago. This was the first big test of the season. A crisis born from a simple planning error that now threatened his entire $40 million dream. Right now, Parker and I are in the elbow cut, and when you think about it, it's very expensive. You're running a multi-million-dollar dozer that consumes a lot of fuel. But it's the only way we're going to get this gold out of the ground this season. With a new monster dozer on site, the race against the freeze was officially on. The sound of the giant engines roaring as they ripped into the permafrost was a constant reminder of how much money they were burning every single hour. What's really going on in these situations is a battle of brute force against nature. The thing is, even a D11 dozer, one of the biggest in the world, struggles against ground that has been frozen for thousands of years. The metal rippers would groan and screech, and sometimes the machine would come to a complete stop, shuddering. Against a particularly hard patch of ice, behind the scenes, the crew was feeling the pressure. They were working long, exhausting hours under the cold Yukon sun. Moving giant machines around, fueling them, and keeping them running is a tough job on a good day. But doing it while knowing you are weeks behind schedule is a whole other level of stress. Every breakdown, no matter how small, felt like a catastrophe. A hydraulic hose bursting or an engine overheating could cost them hours of precious time, which meant thousands of dollars of lost gold. After 3 long days of non-stop ripping and digging, they had finally prepared enough ground at the elbow. Cut 2. Start sluicing. Sluicing is when they run all the pay dirt through their giant wash plant, affectionately named Big Red. This is the moment of truth where all the hard work either pays off or turns into a heartbreaking disappointment. They started feeding the dirt into the hungry machine, and everyone watched the sluice boxes, hoping to see the telltale black sand and specks of gold that meant they were in a rich spot. And then, out of nowhere, right when things seemed their darkest, their luck changed. They did their first cleanup from the elbow cut, and you won't believe what they found. The gold pan was heavy. After they weighed it all, the total came to 282.3 ounces. At the time, that much gold was worth nearly $740,000. A huge wave of relief washed over the entire crew. Parker himself was overjoyed. He exclaimed that this is what they were supposed to be doing all along. Suddenly, everything made sense. The expensive gamble on the extra dozer, the long hours, the stress, it was all worth it. This was the first real sign that maybe, just maybe, they could turn the season around and get back on track for their massive goal, hitting stride and chasing the big numbers. That first big gold win from the elbow cut was the spark that lit a fire under Parker's crew. It was like a switch had been flipped. The mood at the mine site went from stressed and worried to energized and focused. You see, 4 gold miners. Nothing motivates them more than seeing a handful of heavy yellow gold. It's the proof that all their hard work is not for nothing. This changes everything for their morale. Now, the pressure was still on, but it was a different kind of pressure. It wasn't the pressure of failure anymore. It was the pressure of opportunity. They knew they were on rich ground, and the new goal was to get as much of it as possible through Big Red, before the Yukon winter shut them down for good. And this is where it gets wild. The team started working with incredible speed and efficiency. The giant trucks were running in a constant loop, hauling pay dirt from the elbow cut to the wash plant. The dozers were pushing dirt non-stop, and Big Red was running day and night. What nobody talks about is the incredible amount of coordination it takes to keep an operation like this running at full speed. It's like a giant, noisy ballet of monster machines. If one part of the system breaks down, if a truck gets a flat tire, or the wash plant gets clogged, the entire operation grinds to a halt. But right now, everything was working perfectly. At the end of one particularly good week of sluicing, they did another cleanup, and if that wasn't enough to prove their luck had turned, this way, when was even better. The total for that 1 week was 382.4 ounces of gold. It was a massive, massive haul. Another huge step towards their goal. Nice? Yeah, nice. That's what we're supposed to be doing. There we go. Yeah, back in it. Now we're back to where we should be. What does that give us? So for the week, we have 382.4 ounces. It felt like they were finally hitting their stride. But let's not forget the Yukon is a harsh master. Just as they were getting into a good rhythm, the weather would throw them a curveball. A sudden cold snap could start to refreeze the ground they had just worked so hard to thaw. A heavy rainstorm could turn the mine site into a giant mud pit. making it impossible for the heavy trucks to move. Each of these challenges was a reminder that they were in a constant battle and they couldn't afford to relax for a single moment. Parker was constantly watching the weather, pushing his crew to work faster and harder, knowing that their window of opportunity could slam shut at any time. As the season entered its final weeks, the race to the finish line became an obsession. The days were getting shorter, the nights were getting colder, and the first signs of snow were dusting the tops of the mountains. Parker knew they were in the home stretch. What was really going on was a calculated push to mine out the richest parts of their ground before it was too late. Every ounce of gold they could get now was critical. The truth nobody expected is that even after their mid-season comeback, hitting a $40 million target was still going to be incredibly difficult. It turns out there's more to the story of their final goal total. While on TV, we might just see the final number. The reality is a little different.